a Korean mafia boss who lost everything in a single night, a black executive secretary who refused to leave when everyone else ran. When the world destroys you, sometimes the only person left standing beside you is the one you never expected to need. This is their story, raw, brutal, and real. Follow this journey to the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Rain came down in sheets that Thursday night, turning Chicago's downtown streets into rivers of black asphalt and neon reflection. The kind of rain that felt personal, angry, like the city itself wanted to wash something dirty down the drain and forget it ever existed. Kang Min-jae stood alone in the boardroom on the 47th floor of the Millennium Tower, watching water streak down floor-to-ceiling windows while men in expensive suits packed briefcases behind him. Nobody spoke to him. Nobody looked at him. 3 hours ago, these same men kissed his ring and called him Sir. Now they moved around him like he was a corpse nobody wanted to touch. The deal was dead. $260 million evaporated in a single failed investment, a cryptocurrency scheme tied to arms trafficking that the FBI had been watching for 8 months. When the arrest came, Min-jae's name was everywhere. Not charged, not yet, but exposed. And in his world, exposure was worse than prison. Mr. Kang, one of the lawyers, a thin white man with wire-rimmed glasses, stopped at the door. His voice was careful, polite, the kind of politeness that meant nothing. The building's security will escort you out through the service entrance for your privacy. Min-jae didn't turn around. Get out. The lawyer left without another word. For 3 years, Min-jae had built something that looked legitimate on paper. Real estate holdings, import businesses, investment portfolios. Beneath it all ran the blood money, the extortion, the protection rackets, the international smuggling networks that made his father's generation rich and untouchable. But Min-jae had wanted more. He'd wanted respect in rooms where men wore Ivy League degrees instead of scars. Now he had nothing. His phone buzzed against the table. He picked it up, saw the name, and felt something cold settle in his chest. Hyung Nim, big brother. His cousin, the head of the family back in Seoul. Min-jae answered in Korean. I know what you're going to say. Do you? His cousin's voice was smooth, calm. That made it worse. Because I don't think you understand what you've done. The Americans are watching you. The Chinese families are laughing at us. And you made deals without family approval using our name. I was trying to expand. You were trying to be American. His cousin spat the word like poison. You wanted their country clubs and their board seats, and you forgot what you actually are. Now you've brought shame on all of us. Min-jae's jaw tightened. I can fix this. You can't. The family is cutting ties. Effective immediately. Your name, your operations, your debts, they're yours now. We're done protecting you. The line went dead. Min-jae stood there holding the phone, feeling the full weight of what that meant. No family backing, no international network, no protection from the rivals who'd been waiting years for him to show weakness. He was alone. The drive back to his headquarters took 40 minutes through rain that wouldn't stop. The building sat in a mostly abandoned industrial district near the South Loop, a 5-story brick structure that used to house a printing company in the 1970s. Min-jae bought it for cash 8 years ago and renovated the top 3 floors into something that looked like a tech startup. Open floor plans, glass-walled conference rooms, expensive furniture that suggested success. Most of his people worked out of smaller locations across the city. This building was the brain, the place where real decisions got made. Min-jae expected it to be empty when he arrived just past midnight. His second-in-command had texted him earlier. Everyone's gone. Smart ones left this afternoon. Stupid ones waited until the news broke. Nobody's coming back. But when Min-jae pushed through the reinforced front door and took the elevator to the top floor, he found the lights still on. And he found her. Amara Brooks sat at her desk in the executive suite, fingers moving across her laptop keyboard, a half-empty coffee cup beside her. She'd worked for him for 2 years. Executive secretary, they called it. But that title didn't capture what she actually did. She managed his legitimate operations, handled correspondence with investors, kept the front-facing business running, while Min-jae dealt with the parts that couldn't be written down. She was 31. Southside Chicago born and raised, Business degree from Northwestern, she'd paid for herself while working 2 jobs. Dark skin, natural hair, she kept short and professional, and eyes that didn't miss anything. She wore a gray blazer over a black shirt, and she looked exhausted. Minjay stopped in the doorway. Why are you still here? Amara glanced up. Her expression didn't change. Because I work here. Not anymore. Everyone else figured that out. Everyone else is stupid. She turned back to her screen. Close the door. We need to talk. Minjay felt something strange move through him. Not quite anger, not quite surprise. He stepped inside and shut the door behind him. There's nothing to talk about. It's over. It's not. Amara pulled up a spreadsheet and turned the laptop so he could see. I've been going through the books all day. The legitimate holdings, the properties, the import licenses, the investment accounts that aren't tied to anything criminal. They're worth about 11 million liquid, maybe 30 million total if we liquidate smart. That's nothing. That's seed money. She met his eyes. You want to disappear and live quiet somewhere? Fine. Take the money and run. But if you want to rebuild, actually rebuild into something real, I can help you do it. Minjay stared at her. You're insane. Maybe. Amara closed the laptop. But I'm also the only person in this building who didn't abandon you the second things got hard. So either listen to what I have to say or go ahead and run like everyone expects you to. He should have walked out. Should have told her she didn't understand what she was talking about. But something in her voice, the absolute lack of fear, the steady confidence, made him stay. Minjay pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. Talk. Amara leaned back. You spent 3 years trying to be legitimate while still running a criminal empire. That's why you failed. You can't do both. The dirty money corrupts everything it touches, and eventually someone notices. FBI, IRS, rival organizations, doesn't matter. You were always going to crash. So what are you suggesting? Cut it all. Every connection to the criminal side, every debt, every relationship, every operation. Start completely clean. With what? $11 million and a reputation that makes me untouchable? With a business that matters. Amara pulled out a folder from her desk drawer and slid it across to him. 6 months ago, you sent me to a conference on sustainable development. You thought it was boring political nonsense. I thought it was the future. Minjay opened the folder. Inside were reports on solar energy infrastructure, clean water systems, developing markets in Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Places where people lived without reliable electricity or clean drinking water. I've been researching this, Amara said. There are billions of people who need these technologies, and the big corporations don't care because the profit margins look small. But the margins aren't small, they're just different. You build infrastructure in underserved communities, you create customers for life. You improve their lives, they trust you. Trust creates markets. Minjay looked up at her. You want me to become a humanitarian? I want you to become smart. Amara's voice went hard. You chased power your whole life. You know what power actually is? It's not fear, it's not money. It's being necessary. You make yourself necessary to people's lives. You have power they can't take away. And right now, you're not necessary to anyone. The words hit harder than they should have. Minjay set the folder down. Even if I wanted to do this, and I'm not saying I do, nobody would trust me. My name is poison. Your name is infamous. That's different. Amara stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the rain-soaked city. People love a redemption story. The criminal who becomes a saint, the monster who finds conscience. You play it right. Your past becomes your greatest asset, proof that people can change. And if I don't play it right, then you end up dead or in prison, like everyone expects. She turned to face him. But at least you'll have tried something that mattered. Silence filled the room. Outside, lightning flashed somewhere over the lake. Minjay studied her, really studied her, the set of her shoulders, the exhaustion she was trying to hide, the intelligence burning behind those dark eyes. Why? He asked quietly. Why do you care what happens to me? Amara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. Because I grew up watching men like you destroy my neighborhood. Drug dealers, gang leaders, criminals who took everything and gave nothing back. I watched my brother get killed over a corner that wasn't worth dying for, and I swore I'd never work for people like that. Then why did you work for me? Because you were different. Or I thought you could be. She crossed her arms. You weren't just a thug. You read books. You asked questions. You actually cared about things beyond money and respect. I kept thinking, if someone pushed you in the right direction, you could be something else, something better. And now? Now I'm offering to push. Amara walked back to the desk. 3 months, no salary. I work for equity only. Percentage ownership in whatever company we build. You give me full operational control of the legitimate business. I decide what we build, how we build it, who we work with. You handle the money, the relationships, the things I can't do. But you follow my lead on strategy. Min-jae almost laughed. You're asking me to trust you with everything. No, I'm asking you to trust yourself enough to try something you're actually good at, which is surviving. Amara's eyes didn't blink. You survived the Korean underworld. You survived building an empire in a foreign country. You survived your family cutting you off. You're a survivor, Min-jae. But you've been surviving for the wrong things. Survive for something that matters and see what happens. The way she said his name, not Mr. Kang, not boss, just Min-jae, did something to the air in the room. He stood up slowly. If I say yes, we'll fail. You understand that? The odds are impossible. The odds were always impossible. That's why everyone else left. Amara extended her hand, but I didn't. Min-jae looked at her hand, looked at her face, saw something there he hadn't seen in anyone in years. Belief. Not in who he was, in who he could be. He shook her hand. Her grip was firm, strong. 3 months, Min-jae said. But if this crashes, we both go down. Then we better not crash. They worked through the night. Amara showed him the research she'd been compiling for months. Market analyses, technology reports, potential manufacturing partners. She'd been planning this long before the empire collapsed. Maybe she'd seen it coming before anyone else did. By the time sunrise broke over Chicago, they had the skeleton of a business plan. Solar panel manufacturing and distribution focused on off-grid communities. Clean water filtration systems using new membrane technology. Partnerships with NGOs and local governments in developing countries. Sounded insane. A former Mafia boss trying to save the world. But the more Min-jae looked at the numbers, the more he saw what Amara saw. A market worth billions that everyone else was ignoring because it required patience, long-term thinking, actually caring about outcomes. We'll need manufacturing, Min-jae said, rubbing his eyes. I know people in South Korea who could produce the technology, but they won't work with me after what happened. They will if we come with cash and contracts. Amara pulled up another spreadsheet. I've identified 3 factories that are struggling right now. They need customers. We offer them guaranteed orders. They won't care about your reputation. And the investors? We'll need more than 11 million to scale this. We bootstrap. Start small. Build proof of concept. Show the technology works. Then we go to impact investors. People who care about social good, not just returns. She looked at him. That's where your story becomes an asset. The criminal who's trying to make amends. They'll eat it up. Min-jae felt something unfamiliar move through his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Hope. When do we start? He asked. Now! Amara was already typing. I'm setting up meetings for next week. Small foundations, community organizations, anyone who might listen. We need to start building relationships. Nobody's going to meet with me. They'll meet with us. She glanced at him. You're not alone anymore. Get used to it. The first 2 weeks were worse than Min-jae expected. Amara set up meetings with 12 different organizations. 10 of them canceled when they learned Min-jae's name was attached. The 2 that didn't cancel spent the entire meeting asking pointed questions about his criminal background and whether this was some elaborate money laundering scheme. This isn't working, Min-jae said after the second disaster meeting. They sat in his car in a parking garage, rain hammering the roof. Nobody's going to trust me. Nobody trusts you yet. Amara stared straight ahead. But they will. You're dreaming. Maybe, but I'm not stopping. She turned to look at him. You want to quit? The question hung between them. Min-jae thought about his cousin's voice on the phone. Thought about his father, who'd built an empire through violence and died alone. Thought about the men who'd worked for him, who'd scattered the moment his power disappeared. Then he thought about Amara, sitting at her desk while the empire burned, still working because she believed in something nobody else could see. No, Min-jae said quietly. I don't want to quit. Good, because I found someone who will actually listen. The meeting was at a community center on the south side, the same neighborhood where Amara grew up. The director was a black woman in her 60s named Mrs. Patterson, who'd run the center for 30 years. She sat across from them in a tiny office that smelled like coffee and old paper, studying Min-jae with sharp eyes. I know who you are, Mrs. Patterson said. My grandson showed me the news. Mafia boss, they called you. Criminal. Thug. Min-jae opened his mouth, but Amara touched his arm. Waited. They also said you lost everything, Mrs. Patterson continued. That everyone abandoned you, that you're trying to start over. She looked at Amara. And I know you, sweetheart. I knew your mother. She was good people. She was, Amara said quietly. Mrs. Patterson leaned back in her chair. So tell me, why should I believe this isn't some scam? Why should I trust a man like you anywhere near the people I've spent my life protecting? Min-jae felt the weight of that question. The answer he would have given 6 months ago died in his throat. Instead, he found himself saying something true. You shouldn't trust me. I don't trust myself. He met her eyes. But I'm tired of being what everyone expects. I'm tired of building things that destroy people. And if I'm going to spend whatever time I have left on this earth, I'd rather spend it making something that matters. Even if I fail. Even if nobody believes me. Silence filled the small office. Mrs. Patterson studied him for what felt like forever. Then she nodded slowly. All right, she said. I'll give you a chance. We've got a school 3 blocks from here that loses power every time it rains hard. The city won't fix it. Can your solar panels help? Amara leaned forward. Yes. If we can survey the building, we can design a system that'll keep power running independently. How much? For you, nothing. Min-jae spoke before Amara could answer. This is proof of concept. We need to show the technology works. You let us install it, document the results, use it as a case study for other investors. Mrs. Patterson raised an eyebrow. Nothing? What's the catch? No catch. Just a chance to prove we're serious. Another long silence. Then Mrs. Patterson smiled. You might actually mean that. All right, Mr. Kang, you got yourself a project. Don't make me regret this. They shook hands. Walking out of the community center, Amara looked at Min-jae with something like surprise. You just gave away $50,000 of work for free. We need credibility more than we need money. Still, that was decent of you. Min-jae almost laughed. Don't sound so shocked. I'm not shocked. I'm just... She trailed off, then shook her head. Never mind. Let's get to work. The school installation took 3 weeks. Min-jae pulled in every favor he had left to source materials and find contractors willing to work with him. Amara managed the project like a general commanding troops, coordinating between the school, the suppliers, and the community. The day they flipped the switch, 40 kids crowded into the school's multipurpose room to watch. The lights came on, powered entirely by the solar array on the roof, and the kids cheered like they'd just witnessed magic. Min-jae stood at the back of the room, watching those kids celebrate, and felt something break open inside his chest, something that had been closed for a very long time. Mrs. Patterson found him afterward. You did good, Mr. Kang. We did good, he corrected, nodding toward Amara. That woman is special. Mrs. Patterson's voice went quiet. Don't waste what she's giving you. Min-jae watched Amara crouch down to show a little girl how the monitoring system worked, patience and warmth in every gesture. I know, he said softly. The school project became their proof of concept. Amara documented everything, photos, data, testimonials from teachers and parents. She built a presentation that told a story worth believing in. And slowly, impossibly, people started listening. A small foundation in New York agreed to fund 2 more installations. A tech entrepreneur from San Francisco who'd grown up poor called them after seeing their work online. A documentary filmmaker asked to follow their next project. The business was growing, not fast, but real. But the past doesn't disappear just because you want it to. 6 weeks into the rebuild, Min-jae got a visitor. He was working late at the office, had been running numbers on a new partnership deal, when the door to his private office opened without knocking. Lee Sung-ho stepped inside. Min-jae's blood went cold. Sung-ho was family, distant family, but still blood. He ran enforcement for one of the Korean syndicates in Los Angeles, and he'd always hated Min Jae. Thought Min Jae was too soft, too ambitious, too American. Cousin. Sung Ho smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. He was shorter than Min Jae, built like a boxer, with a scar running from his right ear to his jaw. I hear you've become a businessman, a legitimate businessman. Min Jae didn't stand. What do you want? The family sent me. Sung Ho walked to the window, hands in his pockets. There's concern about your new venture. Questions about where the seed money came from. The seed money is clean. Is it? Because some people think you're hiding assets, money that belongs to the family. I'm not hiding anything. The family cut me off, remember? We cut you off from protection, not from your obligations. Sung Ho turned to face him. You still owe debts, cousin, and those debts don't disappear because you're trying to play hero. Min Jae felt rage build behind his teeth. I don't owe you anything. That's not your decision to make. Sung Ho's voice went flat. The family wants 40% of your new company as payment for the debts you left behind. 40% of nothing is nothing. Then make it something, or we'll make sure it stays nothing. Sung Ho headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and cousin? Your secretary. The black woman. Someone should tell her she's working for dangerous people. Accidents happen. The threat was clear. Min Jae was out of his chair before he knew he was moving. He grabbed Sung Ho by the collar and slammed him against the wall hard enough to rattle the picture frames. You don't touch her, Min Jae said, his voice deadly quiet. You don't go near her. You don't think about her. Understand? Sung Ho smiled through split lips. So that's how it is. The Black Viper has feelings now. Min Jae shoved him harder. I'm not asking. Neither am I. Sung Ho jerked free. 40%, cousin, or we burn everything you're building, starting with her. He left. Min Jae stood there breathing hard, fists clenched, trying to control the violence screaming through his blood. The door opened again. Amara stepped inside, concern written across her face. I heard shouting. What happened? Nothing. Min Jae? I said nothing. He couldn't look at her. Couldn't risk letting her see what he was feeling. Go home, Amara. It's 10 o'clock. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what's wrong. He finally turned to face her. My past is wrong. My family is wrong. Everything I've ever been is wrong, and it's going to destroy what we're building. So we fight back. You can't fight these people. They don't follow rules. Neither do we. Amara crossed her arms. I didn't come this far to quit because your family wants a piece of what we're building, so either tell me what we're dealing with, or I'll figure it out myself. But I'm not leaving you to handle this alone. Min Jae stared at her, at the absolute certainty in her eyes, the refusal to back down. And he realized something that terrified him more than any threat from his cousin. He was falling for her, not because she was beautiful, not because she was brilliant, but because she was the first person in his entire life who stood beside him when staying was dangerous. They want 40%, he said quietly, or they'll destroy everything, including you. Then we give them nothing, Amar's voice was steel, and we watch our backs. They'll come after us. Let them try. She meant it. Min Jae could see it in every line of her body. You're insane, he said softly. Maybe. Amara almost smiled. But so are you. She left before he could respond. Min Jae stood alone in his office, staring out at the Chicago skyline, understanding that everything had just changed. The past was coming for them. His family, his enemies, everyone who wanted him to fail. But for the first time in his life, Min Jae wasn't alone. And that made him more dangerous than he'd ever been before. The threat from Sung Ho hung over everything like smoke that wouldn't clear. Min Jae didn't sleep that night. He sat in his apartment, a sterile high-rise unit downtown that he'd bought years ago and never bothered making into a home, staring at his phone. Part of him wanted to call his cousin in Seoul, beg for protection, negotiate some kind of truce. But he knew how that conversation would end. The family didn't negotiate with the weak. At 6 a.m, his phone buzzed. A text from Amara. Office, now. We have a problem. Min Jae drove through empty streets as the city woke up around him. When he reached the building, he found Amara in the conference room, surrounded by papers, her laptop open, dark circles under her eyes like bruises. You didn't go home, he said. Neither did you. She didn't look up. Come look at this. Min Jae walked around the table. She'd pulled up their business accounts. Every transaction, every contract, every dollar flowing in and out of the company. What am I looking at? Our vendor contracts. The ones we signed last week for the next 3 installations. Amara tapped the screen. Someone's been calling our partners, telling them we're a front for organized crime, telling them the FBI is investigating us. 2 vendors already pulled out. 3 more are reviewing their options. Min Jae felt cold spread through his chest. Sung Ho. Your cousin? He doesn't make empty threats. Min Jae pulled out a chair and sat down hard. He's going to dismantle everything we've built piece by piece until we give him what he wants. Can he actually do that? He has resources, people, money. Min Jae rubbed his face. And he has time. We don't. Amara was quiet for a moment. Then she closed the laptop. So we accelerate. What? We can't fight a slow war. We don't have the resources. She stood up and started pacing. But we can move fast, build momentum so quickly they can't keep up, get so much legitimate success and public attention that destroying us becomes too expensive. That's insane. Everything we're doing is insane. Amara stopped pacing and looked at him. I've been working on something. Didn't want to tell you until I was sure, but we don't have time for careful anymore. She pulled up a new file on her laptop. There's a clean water conference in Seattle next week. Major international development organizations, NGO leaders, impact investors, everyone who matters. I submitted our proposal 2 months ago. This morning I got the acceptance email. They want us to present. Min Jae stared at the screen. Present what? Our model? What we did at the school. How we're building sustainable infrastructure in underserved communities. She met his eyes. This is our shot, Min Jae. We get in front of those people, tell our story right. We could walk out with enough funding and partnerships to scale nationwide. Maybe international. Or we could walk out with nothing. Worse than nothing if they dig into my background. They will dig. That's guaranteed. Amara's voice went hard. But I can control the narrative if you let me. We don't hide your past. We own it. Former criminal trying to make amends. Redemption story. People eat that up. And if Sung Ho shows up, then we deal with it. She crossed her arms. But we're going to that conference. We're presenting. And we're coming back with enough momentum that your cousin can't touch us without looking like the bad guy. Min Jae wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she didn't understand how dangerous this was. But when he looked at her face, the determination, the absolute refusal to surrender, he realized arguing was pointless. All right, he said quietly. Seattle. The next week moved like a fever dream. Amara worked 18-hour days rebuilding their vendor relationships, spinning the negative calls as competitor sabotage, promising better terms and faster payment. She drafted and redrafted their presentation until every word landed with precision. She coached Min Jae on how to talk about his past without sounding defensive or self-pitying. You don't apologize, she told him during a practice session 2 days before the flight. Apologies make you look weak. You acknowledge what you were. You explain what you're building. You let them decide if they believe you. What if they don't? Then we fail. She looked at him with those dark, unblinking eyes. But we fail trying something that mattered. That's better than dying slowly while your cousin picks us apart. Min Jae found himself watching her during these sessions. The way she moved when she talked about the business. The passion that burned through exhaustion. The intelligence that turned every obstacle into strategy. He'd been attracted to women before. Beautiful women. Dangerous women. Women who understood his world. But this was different. This felt like standing at the edge of something he couldn't control. Something that would change everything if he let it. Stop staring at me, Amara said without looking up from her notes. We have work to do. I wasn't staring. You were absolutely staring. Now she looked at him, and there was something careful in her expression. Whatever you're thinking, don't. I'm not thinking anything. Good. Keep it that way. She handed him a stack of index cards. Practice your opening again. You still sound too defensive. The flight to Seattle left on a Wednesday morning. Min Jae booked first-class tickets, and Amara gave him a look when she saw the seats. We can't afford this, she said. We can't afford to look desperate. Min Jae settled into his seat. Image matters. Image doesn't pay bills. Neither does looking poor. Amara shook her head but sat down. As the plane taxied, she pulled out her laptop and started reviewing notes. Min-jae watched the city disappear below them and tried to ignore the gnawing feeling in his gut that something was going to go wrong. The conference was held at a massive hotel downtown, one of those places with marble floors and crystal chandeliers that tried too hard to impress. Registration took an hour. They picked up badges, conference materials, and a schedule showing them presenting the next afternoon in Ballroom C. "That's a big room," Min-jae said, looking at the hotel map. "Holds 300 people." Amar's voice was steady, but he saw her hand tremble slightly as she folded the schedule. "We need to network tonight. Cocktail hour. Make connections before the presentation." "I'm not good at cocktail parties." "Neither am I, but we're doing it anyway." The cocktail hour was exactly as painful as Min-jae expected. 100 people in business casual clutching wine glasses and making small talk about sustainable development goals and impact metrics. Min-jae recognized the type. Wealthy liberals who wanted to feel good about helping the poor as long as it didn't require actual sacrifice. But Amara moved through the crowd like she belonged there. She introduced herself to program directors and foundation executives. She talked about their work with genuine passion. She made people lean in and listen. Min-jae hung back, nursing a whiskey, trying to look approachable and failing. "You're Kang Min-jae." He turned. A white man in his 50s stood beside him, gray hair, expensive suit, the kind of quiet confidence that came from old money. "I am," Min-jae said carefully. "Robert Chen. I run a foundation focused on clean water access in Southeast Asia." The man extended his hand. "I read about your school project in Chicago. Impressive work." Min-jae shook his hand. "Thank you. I also read about your previous career." Chen's eyes were sharp. "The FBI investigation, the family connections, the criminal enterprise." Here it was. The judgment. The door closing. "That's accurate," Min-jae said. "I was involved in criminal activities. I'm not anymore." "Why should I believe you?" "You shouldn't." Min-jae met his eyes. "You should look at what I'm building. Judge that. The past is already written." Chen studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. "Fair answer. I'll be at your presentation tomorrow. Convince me it's real, and my foundation might be interested in a partnership." He walked away before Min-jae could respond. Amara appeared at his shoulder. "Who was that?" "Robert Chen, Clean Water Foundation." "Did he—" "He knows everything, and he's coming to the presentation." Min-jae finished his whiskey. "No pressure." That night in his hotel room, Min-jae couldn't sleep. He kept running through the presentation in his head, anticipating every question, every challenge. Around 2 a.m, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Just a photo. Min-jae opened it and felt ice flood his veins. The photo showed Amara. Walking out of the hotel earlier that evening, someone had been following her. Another text came through. 40%. Last chance. Min-jae stared at the phone, rage and fear warring in his chest. Sung-ho was here, in Seattle, watching them. He called Amara. She answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep. "What's wrong?" "They're here. My cousin's people. They sent me a photo of you." Silence. Then, "I'm coming to your room." "No, stay there. Lock your door." "I'm not hiding, Min-jae." Her voice was wide awake now. "Give me 5 minutes." She showed up in sweatpants and a Northwestern t-shirt, her short hair messy, eyes sharp despite the hour. Min-jae showed her the photo. Amara studied it without expression. "So they know where we are. So what?" "So what? They're threatening you. They're trying to scare us." "That's different." She handed his phone back. "We go ahead with the presentation tomorrow. We don't change anything." "You could get hurt." "I could get hurt crossing the street." Amara sat on the edge of his bed. "You want to give them 40%? No. Then we don't give them anything. We do our job. We tell our story, and we let them make the next move." Min-jae sat beside her. "You're not afraid?" "I'm terrified." She said it simply. "But fear doesn't help. Action helps." They sat in silence for a moment. The hotel room felt too small, too intimate. "Why are you really doing this, Swag?" Min-jae asked quietly. Not the business answer, the real answer. Amara was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. "My brother died when I was 19, shot over a street corner that didn't belong to anyone. The men who killed him worked for people like you, people who destroyed communities for profit and called it business." She looked at her hands. I spent years hating people like you. Then I met you, and you were everything I expected: arrogant, violent, selfish. That's not exactly. Let me finish. She glanced at him. But you were also smart. And you asked questions about the legitimate businesses like you actually cared about more than just the money. And I kept thinking, what if someone showed this man there was a better way? What if someone pushed him towards something that mattered? Would he take it? So I'm an experiment? No, you're a person. Amar's eyes held his. A person who's capable of being better than what you were. And I wanted to see if I was right. Are you? I don't know yet. She stood up. Ask me again after tomorrow. She left before he could respond. Min-jae lay awake until sunrise, thinking about her words, about redemption and second chances, and whether people like him deserved either one. The presentation was scheduled for 2 in the afternoon. By noon, Ballroom C was already filling up. Min-jae stood backstage with Amara, both of them in business formal, watching people take their seats through a gap in the curtain. That's more than 300 people, Min-jae said. They added overflow seating. Amara's voice was tight. Word got around about the former Mafia boss trying to save the world. Great. It is great. Attention is what we need. She turned to face him. You ready? No? Good. Neither am I. She almost smiled. Let's go anyway. They walked onto the stage together. The lights were bright enough to hurt. The crowd went quiet. Amara took the microphone first. Good afternoon. My name is Amara Brooks, and I'm here to talk about the future of sustainable infrastructure in underserved communities. Her voice was strong, clear, no trace of the fear Min-jae knew she was feeling. But before we talk about the future, I need to address the past. She gestured to Min-jae. This is Kang Min-jae. Some of you know his reputation. Former organized crime figure, accused of money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy. Those accusations are accurate. He was those things. Min-jae heard murmurs ripple through the crowd. 6 months ago, his criminal empire collapsed. Everyone abandoned him. His family, his associates, his protection, all gone. Amara's eyes swept the audience. I was his executive secretary. I stayed. Not because I approved of what he'd been, but because I saw potential for what he could become. She clicked to the first slide. A photo of the school in Chicago, kids smiling under new lights. This is what we built together. Solar-powered infrastructure providing reliable electricity to a school that lost power every time it rained. Free installation, no strings attached, just proving that former criminals could build something that actually helped people. More slides. Data showing energy output. Testimonials from teachers, photos of students doing homework under lights that didn't flicker. Then Amara handed the microphone to Min-jae. His mouth was dry. The lights felt hotter. I don't have a redemption speech prepared, Min-jae said. His voice echoed strangely in the large room. I can't stand here and tell you I'm a good person now. I'm not sure what I am. He saw Amara watching him from the side of the stage. Steady, believing. What I can tell you is what I've learned. Power built on fear doesn't last. Money made from suffering corrupts everything it touches. And the respect I thought I had was just people being afraid to say no. He clicked to the next slide. Market analysis, growth projections, partnership opportunities. This business isn't about redemption, it's about necessity. 2 billion people live without reliable electricity. 3 billion lack access to clean water. The corporations who could help them don't, because the profit margins look small on paper. But those margins are real. And those people deserve better than being ignored because helping them isn't lucrative enough. Min-jae's voice gained strength. I spent 15 years building an empire that destroyed communities. I'd like to spend whatever time I have left building something that helps them instead. Maybe that doesn't erase what I did, but it's better than doing nothing. He looked directly at Robert Chen in the third row. Judge us on our work, on our results, on whether we deliver what we promise. Everything else is just noise. The presentation continued for 40 minutes. Amara walked through their technical approach, their community partnerships, their financial projections. Min-jae handled questions about scalability and manufacturing. They worked together like they'd been doing this for years. Her covering his weaknesses, him supporting her strengths. When they finished, the applause was cautious, polite. Not hostile, but not enthusiastic either. They walked off stage in silence. That was, Amara started. A disaster, Min-jae finished. I was going to say uncertain. She pulled off her blazer. We'll see. The networking session after the presentation was brutal. People approached them carefully, like they were handling something dangerous. They asked probing questions about Min Jae's background, about their funding sources, about whether this was legitimate or elaborate fraud. Amara handled every question with patience Min Jae didn't have. She never got defensive, never backed down, just presented facts and let people draw their own conclusions. Around 5, Robert Chen found them. That was an interesting presentation, he said. Thank you, Amara replied. I didn't say it was good. I said it was interesting. Chen's expression was unreadable. Your technology is sound. Your approach makes sense. Your projections are ambitious but not impossible. But, Min Jae asked, but you're asking me to bet millions of dollars on a partnership with a man who spent 15 years breaking the law. Chen crossed his arms. Why should I believe this isn't just another scheme? Because I don't need a scheme anymore, Min Jae said. Schemes require hiding. This is completely transparent. Every dollar tracked, every contract public, every result measurable. You can audit us whenever you want. And if your criminal past causes problems, if rivals come after you, if federal investigators decide to look closer, then we deal with it. Amara stepped forward. Mr. Chen, nobody's asking you to trust Min Jae's character. We're asking you to trust the model, the technology, the market opportunity. Those things are real regardless of who's running the company. Chen studied them both. Send me your full financials, all of them. I want to see every transaction since you started this company. If everything checks out, we'll talk about a partnership. He walked away. Amara grabbed Min Jae's arm. That's not a no. That's not a yes either. It's better than we had an hour ago. She was smiling, actually smiling. We did it, Min Jae. We actually got through to someone who matters. For a moment, standing in that conference ballroom with Amar's hand on his arm and hope burning in her eyes, Min Jae let himself believe they might actually pull this off. Then his phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Conference Center Parking Garage, Level 3. Now, come alone or she gets hurt. Min Jae's blood went cold. What is it? Amara saw his expression change. Nothing. I need to make a call. He pulled away. Stay here. Network. I'll be back. Min Jae? But he was already walking away, heading for the elevator, his heart hammering against his ribs. Level 3 of the parking garage was mostly empty. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The smell of exhaust and concrete hung in the cold air. Sung-ho leaned against a black SUV, smoking a cigarette. 2 men Min Jae didn't recognize stood behind him. Enforcers, muscle. Cousin, Sung-ho smiled. Nice presentation. Very inspiring. What do you want? I told you what I want. 40%. Sung-ho dropped the cigarette and crushed it under his shoe. But you keep ignoring me, making me look bad in front of the family. That's disrespectful. I don't have 40% to give you. We barely have anything. You will have something. Robert Chen's foundation has assets worth $800 million. If he partners with you, that makes you valuable. Sung-ho pushed off the SUV. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign papers giving the family 40% ownership, or I'm going to make sure your black secretary has an accident that ruins that pretty face. Rage flooded Min Jae's system. Touch her and I'll kill you. No, you won't. You're not that person anymore, remember? Sung-ho laughed. You're a businessman now. A humanitarian. You gave up violence for solar panels and clean water. Try me. Something in Min Jae's voice made Sung-ho's smile falter. You care about her, Sung-ho said slowly. The secretary. You actually care. Min Jae didn't answer. Oh, this is perfect. Sung-ho's smile came back wider. The Black Viper fell in love with his employee. Does she know? Does she feel the same way, or is she just using you to build something for herself? Shut up. The family's going to love this. The great Kang Min Jae, brought low by feelings. Sung-ho stepped closer. Here's what happens now. You give us what we want, or I make her suffer, not just physically. I'll destroy her reputation, spread rumors that she slept with a mafia boss for money and power, make sure every person in her community sees her as a traitor who sold out for a criminal. You're insane. No, I'm practical. Sung-ho pulled out a folded document from his jacket. Sign this. Transfer 40%, or I start making calls tonight. Min-jae stared at the paper, at Sung-ho's smug face, at the two enforcers who would do whatever they were told. He thought about Amara, about the school with lights that didn't flicker, about kids doing homework and communities getting clean water, about building something that mattered. No, Min-jae said quietly. Sung-ho's smile disappeared. What? I said no. You want 40%, you'll have to take it. Min-jae met his cousin's eyes. But I'm not giving you anything. Not the business. Not Amara. Nothing. Then you're both dead. Maybe. But at least we'll die building something worth dying for. Min-jae turned to walk away. Do your worst, cousin. We're done talking. Min-jae! He didn't stop. Didn't look back. Just walked toward the elevator, half expecting a bullet in his spine with every step. The elevator doors closed. Min-jae leaned against the wall, breathing hard, realizing what he'd just done. He'd declared war on his own family, for a woman he couldn't have, for a business that might fail, for a future that wasn't guaranteed. When he returned to the ballroom, Amara was talking with a group of NGO directors. She glanced up, saw his face, and immediately excused herself. What happened? We need to leave. Now. What? We have meetings tomorrow? I just told my cousin to go to hell. Min-jae grabbed her arm gently. He's going to retaliate. We need to get out of Seattle before he makes his move. Amara searched his face. What did he threaten? You. He threatened you. Something changed in her expression. And you told him no anyway. I told him no because of you. Min-jae's voice was rough. Because what we're building matters more than keeping him happy. They stared at each other in the middle of the conference ballroom, surrounded by people networking and making deals, and something shifted between them, something dangerous and inevitable. We should go, Amara said quietly. They caught the last flight back to Chicago that night. Didn't talk much, just sat in the darkness of the plane cabin, both of them knowing everything had changed. When they landed at O'Hare just past midnight, Min-jae's phone had 17 missed calls, all from family members, all angry. They know, he said. Good. Amara's jaw was set. Let them know. They drove back to the office instead of going home. Neither of them could sleep. Too much adrenaline. Too much fear mixed with something else neither wanted to name. In the empty office building with only emergency lights glowing, Amara pulled up their email. We have 3 partnership offers, she said, staring at the screen. From the conference, including Robert Chen's foundation. Min-jae looked over her shoulder. He sent it already? 2 hours ago, formal proposal for a $5 million partnership. Full audit required, but he's serious. Amara scrolled through the email. Min-jae, this is real. We actually did it. We're also at war with my family. I know. She turned to face him. Was it worth it? Min-jae looked at her, at the exhaustion and determination and hope mixed together in her eyes. At the woman who'd stayed when everyone else ran, who'd believed in him when belief was insane. Yes, he said. It was worth it. Something electric moved between them. Amara stood up. I should go home. Probably. She didn't move. Neither did Min-jae. This is a bad idea, Amara said softly. The worst. We have too much at stake. The business, the partnerships, everything we've built. I know. If we do this, people will say I manipulated you, that I used you, that I'm just another woman sleeping with her boss for power. I know, Min-jae said again, but I don't care what they say anymore. You should care. I can't. He stepped closer. Because everything they'll say about you, I already know is a lie. You're the most honest person I've ever met. You stayed when staying was dangerous. You believed in something better when everyone else gave up. And somewhere between rebuilding this business and fighting my family and standing on that stage today, I fell in love with you. Amara's breath caught. I love you, Min-jae said it again, clearer. Not because you're brilliant, though you are. Not because you're beautiful, though you are. But because you saw something in me worth saving when I didn't see it myself. Tears gathered in Amara's eyes. This will ruin everything, or it will make everything worth it. She kissed him. It wasn't soft or uncertain. It was desperate and fierce and tasted like fear and hope mixed together. Min-jae pulled her closer, feeling her hands in his hair, her body against his, and thought this must be what drowning feels like. Complete surrender to something bigger than yourself. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Amara pressed her forehead against his. "We can't tell anyone," she whispered. "Not yet. Not until we're stronger." Agreed. "And if this destroys what we built?" "It won't. You don't know that." "No." Minjae lifted her chin so she was looking at him. "But I know I'm not letting you go. Not for my family, not for the business, not for anything." Amara kissed him again, softer this time. Outside, Chicago slept, unaware that two people had just crossed a line they could never uncross, unaware that the real war was just beginning. They kept the relationship hidden for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of stolen moments in empty offices after everyone left. 3 weeks of text messages deleted immediately after reading. 3 weeks of maintaining perfect professional distance during the day while burning for each other at night. Minjae had never been good at hiding anything. His entire life had been built on making people see his power, his strength, his willingness to destroy anyone who challenged him. But hiding this, hiding Amara, felt necessary in a way nothing else ever had, because he knew what would happen if people found out. The whispers, the accusations, the assumptions that she'd slept her way into a business partnership with a criminal. Amara deserved better than that. The business exploded during those 3 weeks. Robert Chen's foundation partnership brought credibility that opened doors everywhere. Suddenly, investors who'd refused to return their calls were scheduling meetings. Tech companies wanted to discuss manufacturing partnerships. International development organizations invited them to pitch projects in Kenya, Bangladesh, the Philippines. They hired 4 new employees, rented proper office space in a building that didn't smell like decades of industrial decay, started looking at warehouse locations for their first manufacturing facility. Everything Minjae had lost was coming back transformed into something he'd never imagined building. But his family didn't disappear just because the business was succeeding. Sung-ho called twice a week, never threatening directly, just reminding Minjae that debts don't expire and family obligations don't vanish because you wear a suit instead of blood. "They're waiting," Amara said one night in Minjae's apartment. They were reviewing contracts on his couch, her legs tucked under her, his arm around her shoulders. "Your family. They're waiting for the perfect moment to strike." "I know." "So what do we do?" Minjae kissed the top of her head. "We keep building. Fast enough that destroying us becomes too expensive." "And if that's not fast enough?" He didn't have an answer for that. The call came on a Thursday morning, 3 weeks after Seattle. Minjae was in a meeting with their new operations manager when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, then saw the Seoul country code. His stomach dropped. He excused himself and answered in the hallway. "Minjae." His cousin's voice. Not Sung-ho, the actual family head, the man who'd cut him off 6 months ago. "We need to talk." "I have nothing to say to you." "That's unfortunate, because I have quite a bit to say to you." His cousin's tone was ice. "Your little rebellion has caused problems. The Los Angeles branch wants blood. Literally. They're calling you a traitor who chose a black woman over family honor." Minjae's hand tightened on the phone. "What I choose is my business. It stopped being your business when you started using the family name to build your company." "I haven't used the family name for anything." "Haven't you?" His cousin laughed softly. "Who do you think gave you the contacts for your Korean manufacturers? Who smoothed the way with customs officials when you started importing materials? You think you built this from nothing? We've been watching, Minji, helping quietly, making sure you had just enough rope." Minjae's blood went cold. "Why?" "Because a successful, legitimate business fronted by a reformed criminal is useful. We can move money through your operations, clean it, make it respectable. You become our bridge to legitimate society." His cousin's voice hardened. "But only if you cooperate. Only if you remember where you came from." "No. Think carefully before you answer. We're offering you a way back into the family. Protection. Resources. All we ask is access to your business infrastructure. 40% ownership plus operational cooperation. You get to keep building your solar panels and water filters. We get to use the network you're creating." I said no. "Then you're choosing her over us, the secretary. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You've developed feelings for an employee and suddenly you think you're some kind of hero." "Her name is Amara. And yes, I'm choosing her. I'm choosing what we're building together. I'm choosing to not be what you made me. Silence on the line. Then his cousin spoke again, and his voice was different, colder, final. You were always weak, Minjae. Your father saw it. I saw it. We tried to make you strong, but you insisted on being soft, on caring about things that don't matter. A pause. I gave you chances. Multiple chances. Now I'm done. Consider yourself an enemy of the family. Everything you have, everything you think you've built, it's gone. We're taking it all. The line went dead. Minjae stood in the hallway, breathing hard, feeling the walls close in. He found Amara in her office, reviewing proposals. She looked up and saw his face. What happened? He told her everything. The call, the threats, the family's plan to destroy them. Amara listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. How much of what we've built used family connections? She asked finally. I don't know. I thought it was all us. But if they've been helping behind the scenes, Minjae sat down hard. They could pull support from our manufacturers, sabotage our shipments, turn our partners against us. Then we verify everything, every contact, every deal, every relationship, figure out what's actually ours and what was theirs. It took 2 days to unravel the truth. Their primary solar panel manufacturer in South Korea, the one offering them better prices than anyone else, had ties to a subsidiary company owned by Min Jae's family. Their customs broker who expedited shipments used connections with officials who owed the family favors. Even their commercial real estate lease had been approved suspiciously fast by a landlord who, it turned out, had gambling debts paid off by family associates. Everything they'd built had family fingerprints on it. They set us up, Amara said, staring at the web of connections they'd mapped on the conference room whiteboard. They let us think we were succeeding on our own, but they controlled everything from the beginning. Minjae felt sick. I should have seen it. How? They were invisible. That was the point. She turned to face him. The question is what we do now. We can't operate if they pull all this support. So we find new support, new manufacturers, new suppliers, new everything. That'll take months, maybe longer. We'll miss our delivery deadlines, lose our partnerships. Then we don't miss them. Amar's voice was steel. We work faster. We find alternatives. We rebuild everything from scratch if we have to, but we do not give them what they want. Minjae looked at her, at the determination burning in her eyes, at the woman who refused to surrender even when surrender was rational. This is going to get ugly, he said quietly. It's already ugly. She crossed her arms. But I didn't come this far to hand our company over to criminals. Did you? No. Then we fight. They started that night. Amara built a spreadsheet of every supplier, every partner, every connection they needed to replace. Minjae worked his remaining independent contacts, the ones he'd made before joining the family, the ones who owed him personally rather than owing the organization. It was brutal work. Most manufacturers wouldn't touch them once they understood the family situation. The ones who would wanted double the usual prices as hazard pay. But slowly, painfully, they started building a network that was actually theirs. Then the news story broke. Minjae was in a meeting with a potential manufacturing partner when his phone started buzzing. Then Amara's phone. Then the office phone. Turn on the news, their operations manager said, bursting into the conference room. Channel 7, now. Someone pulled it up on the conference room screen. A news anchor sat at a desk with Minjae's photo behind her, his old photo. The one taken during the FBI investigation where he looked exactly like what he'd been, a criminal. Former organized crime figure Kang Min-jae has been accused of using his new clean energy company as a front for money laundering, the anchor said. According to documents obtained by the station, Min-jae's company received over $2 million in funding from sources with suspected ties to international criminal organizations. The screen showed bank records, transactions, company filings, all of it real, all of it damning. The question now, the anchor continued, is whether Min-jae's redemption story was genuine or simply another con from a man who spent his life breaking the law. The conference room was silent. Min-jae stared at the screen, feeling everything crumble. That's not real, Amara said. Those documents, they're fabricated. They look real, the operations manager said quietly. Because they're designed to look real. Amara grabbed her laptop. Someone with access to our financial systems created fake records and leaked them. This is a hit job. Does it matter? Min-jae's voice was hollow. Real or fake, everyone will believe it. His phone rang. Robert Chen. Min-jae answered. Mr. Chen. Is it true? Chen's voice was hard. Are you laundering money through your company? No, those documents are fabricated. My family is trying to destroy us because we refuse to cooperate with them. That's a very convenient story. It's the truth. Truth is what people believe, Mr. Kang, and right now everyone believes you're exactly what they always thought you were, a criminal. Chen's voice softened slightly. I wanted to believe in you, I really did, but my foundation can't be associated with this. Our partnership is suspended pending investigation. Mr. Chen, please, I'm sorry, truly, but I have responsibilities to my board, my donors, my reputation. A pause. If you can prove the documents are false, call me. Until then, we're done. He hung up. Min-jae set the phone down carefully, looked at Amara. Chen's out, which means everyone else will follow. Not everyone. Everyone who matters. Min-jae stood up. My family just destroyed us. Everything we built. Gone. The next 24 hours were a nightmare. 3 more partners suspended their relationships. Investors demanded their money back. The bank froze their accounts pending fraud investigation. Employees started updating their resumes. Media trucks parked outside their office building. Reporters shouted questions whenever Min-jae or Amara appeared. Social media exploded with think pieces about why people like Min-jae never really change, why you can't trust criminals, why the whole redemption narrative was always a fantasy. And through it all, Sung-ho's voice on Min-jae's voicemail. 40% would have prevented this, cousin. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable. Min-jae sat alone in his apartment that night, staring at the Chicago skyline, understanding that he'd lost. The family was too powerful, too connected, too willing to burn everything down to prove a point. His phone buzzed. Amara. Come to the office. Now. He almost didn't go. What was the point? But something in her message, the urgency, the command, pulled him out the door. The office was dark except for her workspace. Amara sat surrounded by laptops, papers, coffee cups. She looked like she hadn't slept in 2 days. I found something, she said without preamble. Min-jae walked over. What? The documents they leaked. They're fake, obviously, but they're not just random fabrications. She pulled up side-by-side images on her screens. Look at the transaction codes, the routing numbers. They're real numbers from real accounts, but they're not our accounts. I don't understand. Someone with access to actual criminal financial networks created these documents using real transaction data from other operations, then photoshopped our company information over them. Amara's eyes were bright with exhaustion and something else. Which means somewhere in these documents is proof of actual criminal activity, just not ours. Min-jae leaned closer. Can you trace it? I've been trying, but I'm not a forensic accountant. She looked up at him. We need help. Real help. Someone who understands how criminal financial networks operate. I know people who understand that. They're all criminals. Then we use criminals. Amara's voice was hard. Your family thinks they can destroy us with leaked documents? We leak back. We expose the real transactions in those fake records. Show the world what your family is actually doing. That's insane. You're talking about going to war with organized crime. We're already at war. Amara stood up. They fired first. They're destroying our reputation, our business, everything we've built. What exactly do we have left to lose? Min-jae stared at her. At this brilliant, fearless woman who'd walked into his collapsed empire and decided to build something better. Who'd stayed when staying meant danger. Who'd loved him when love was the worst possible decision. If we do this, he said slowly, we cross a line. We become the thing we're trying not to be. People using information and leverage and threats. No. We become people willing to fight for what matters. Amara grabbed his hand. I didn't fall in love with you because you were safe. I fell in love with you because you're capable of doing hard things when they need to be done. So do this. Fight back. Show them the monster they created is still alive when necessary. Something shifted in Min-jae's chest. Something that had been sleeping woke up. All right, he said quietly. We fight back. He made calls that night to people he'd sworn never to contact again. Old associates, former rivals, people who understood how the family operated and had their own reasons for wanting them exposed. One name kept coming up, Marcus Webb. Webb was a forensic accountant who'd worked for the FBI before going private. He specialized in tracing illegal money through corporate structures. More importantly, he'd tried and failed to build a case against Min-jae's family 5 years ago. He had motivation. Min-jae called him at 2 in the morning. This is Marcus Webb. My name is Kang Min-jae. I have evidence of criminal financial activity by the Korean syndicates operating in the U.S., real evidence, and I'm willing to help you build a case. Silence. Then, why would you do that? Because they're destroying my life, and I want them destroyed back. That's honest. I appreciate honesty. Webb's voice was careful. Meet me tomorrow. Bring everything you have. And Mr. Kang, if this is a setup, I'll make sure you never see daylight again. Understood. They met in a diner in Evanston the next morning. Webb was a black man in his 50s, gray beard, tired eyes that missed nothing. He looked at the documents Amara had compiled and his expression changed. These are real transactions, he said. We know, Amara replied. Someone used them to fabricate records making us look guilty. But those original transactions came from somewhere, from your family's operations. Webb looked at Min-jae. You understand what you're doing? You give me this, I build a case. People go to prison. Your people. They stopped being my people when they tried to destroy us. Webb studied him, then nodded. All right, I'll need everything you know about the family's structure, names, relationships, operations. You cooperate fully and I'll make sure the U.S. attorney knows you helped. I don't want a deal. I want them stopped. Even better. Webb closed the folder. Give me 2 weeks. I'll have something actionable. They left the diner with something they hadn't had in days. A plan. But plans require time, and Min-jae's family wasn't interested in giving them time. The attack came 3 days later. Min-jae was working late at the office. They were still trying to salvage relationships with the few partners who hadn't completely abandoned them. When Amara's phone rang, she answered, and Min-jae watched her face go white. What? She said into the phone. When? Is she? Her hand started shaking. I'm coming now. She hung up and looked at Min-jae with eyes that reflected pure terror. My mother. Someone broke into her house. They beat her. She's in the hospital. The world stopped. How bad? Min-jae's voice didn't sound like his own. Broken ribs? Fractured arm? Concussion. Tears streamed down Amara's face. They left a message, written on her living room wall. What message? Tell your daughter to teach her boss some respect. Min-jae felt something break inside his chest. The last piece of him that believed in redemption, in change, in becoming someone better. I'm going to kill them, he said quietly. No. Amara grabbed his arm. That's what they want. They want you to react with violence so they can say they were right about you all along. I don't care what they say. They hurt your mother because of me, because I chose you over them. And I'm choosing to not let you throw your life away. Amara's voice cracked. We stick to the plan. We give Webb everything he needs. We expose them legally. Legal takes time. Your mother might not have time. My mother is alive, hurt but alive. That's a warning, not an execution. Amara wiped her eyes. If you go after them now, they'll kill you. Then they'll kill me. Then they'll finish what they started with my mother. Is that what you want? Min-jae pulled her into his arms, felt her shake against him. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. It's their fault, not yours. She pulled back to look at him. Promise me you won't do anything stupid. Promise me you'll let Webb do his job. Min-jae wanted to promise, wanted to tell her he'd be smart, be patient, let the law handle it, but he couldn't lie to her. I can't let them keep hurting people I love, he said. Amara searched his face, understanding what he wasn't saying. If you go after them, we're done, she said quietly. I won't watch you become what you were. I won't love a man who chooses violence over everything we've built. Even if violence is the only thing that stops them? Especially then, her voice broke. Because then they win. They prove you never really changed, that everything we did was pointless. They stared at each other in the dim office light. Min-jae felt the choice crystallize in front of him. Be the man Amara believed he could be, or be the monster that might actually keep her safe. He didn't know which was right anymore. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Min-jae, Sung-ho's voice was cheerful, satisfied. I trust you got our message. If you touch her again, you'll what? Call the police? We both know you won't. You'll come for me yourself, like the old days. Sung-ho laughed. That's what I'm counting on. See, the family doesn't just want your business anymore. We want you destroyed, completely. And watching you choose between protecting your woman and becoming the monster again, that's poetry. What do you want? Everything. The business, the technology, the partnerships, all of it signed over by end of week. And you disappear. Leave Chicago, leave the country, leave her. Sung-ho's voice went cold. Do that, and maybe we leave her and her family alone. Maybe. And if I don't, then we escalate. Her mother was just the beginning. We have addresses for her sisters, her nieces and nephews. Everyone she loves becomes a target until you give us what we want, or until you break and come for us with violence. A pause. Either way, we win. Either we get your business, or we prove you're still the Black Viper. Still a criminal. Still exactly what everyone always knew you were. The line went dead. Min-jae set the phone down carefully, looked at Amara's terrified face. They want me to choose, he said. Give them everything and disappear, or fight back and prove I never changed. So we find a third option. There is no third option. Min-jae's control finally snapped. Don't you understand? They will keep hurting people until I give them what they want, or until I give them an excuse to kill me. Those are the only choices. Then we accelerate Webb's investigation. Get the feds involved now. Webb needs time we don't have. And even if he builds a case, that's months before arrests. Months where your family is in danger every single day. Min-jae's hands were shaking. I can't protect you through legal channels. The only way I know how to protect you is the way I always protected things. With fear, with violence, by being what they made me. Tears ran down Amara's face. If you do that, you lose yourself. And you lose me. Better than losing you to them. No, it's the same thing. Her voice was barely a whisper. The man who chooses violence over everything else isn't the man I fell in love with. He's the man I spent 2 years trying to help you stop being. Min-jae felt something tear inside him. Then what do I do? You trust me. You trust Webb. You trust that there's still a way to win this without becoming them. And if you're wrong? If trusting you gets you killed? Amara stepped close, put her hand against his face. Then at least I die knowing you tried to be better, she said softly. That matters more than you think. She left to go to the hospital. Min-jae stood alone in the empty office, feeling the weight of impossible choices crushing down on him. On his desk sat 2 phones, one connected to Marcus Webb and the legal path that might work eventually. The other connected to his old life, to people who would help him do what needed to be done right now. He picked up both phones, stared at them, and realized he was standing at the exact crossroads that would define the rest of his life. Choose Amara's way and risk everything he loved while staying true to the man he was trying to become. Choose his own way and guarantee their safety while destroying any chance of actually being that better man. Min-jae's hands started to shake because he knew deep down what his choice would be, and he knew Amara would never forgive him for it. Min-jae stood in that empty office holding both phones, feeling his heart hammer against his ribs like it was trying to break free. He thought about Amara's mother in a hospital bed, about the message written in her blood on living room walls, about Sung-ho's voice promising escalation, more violence, more pain for everyone Min-jae cared about. Then he thought about Amara's face, the trust in her eyes when she asked him to be better, the tears when she told him choosing violence meant losing her. His hands were still shaking when he made his decision. Min-jae called Marcus Webb. It's Kang. I need you to accelerate everything. I don't care what it takes. I need warrants and arrests now, not in 2 weeks. That's not how federal investigations work. Then make it work differently. Min-jae's voice was steel. My family just put a woman in the hospital. They're threatening to kill more people. You want your case? You want evidence? I'll give you everything. Names, locations, financial records, operational details, everything I know, but you move now. Silence. Then Webb spoke carefully. If I push the U.S. attorney to move this fast, the case might be weaker. Defense attorneys will argue we rushed, made mistakes. I don't care about a perfect case. I care about stopping them before they kill someone I love. More silence. Min-jae could hear Webb breathing, thinking, weighing. All right, Webb said finally. Get me everything you have. Tonight, I'll make calls. No promises, but I'll try. Min-jae spent the next 4 hours writing down everything. Every name he remembered from family operations. Every business front. Every corrupt official who'd taken family money. Every shipment route and safe house location. 15 years of criminal knowledge poured onto paper. His hand cramped. His eyes burned. But he kept writing. By 3 in the morning, he had 40 pages of single-spaced information that would destroy his family completely. He photographed every page and sent them to Webb. Then he called Amara. She answered immediately. How's your mother? Stable. They're keeping her for observation. Her voice was exhausted. Where are you? Office. I just gave Webb everything. Every piece of information I have about the family's operations. Amara was quiet for a moment. That's it then. No going back. No going back, Min-jae agreed. How long until your mother can be moved? They said maybe 2 days. Why? Because the second Webb moves on this information, my family will know I betrayed them, and they'll retaliate hard. Min-jae stood up, started pacing. We need to get your mother somewhere safe. Your sisters too. Anyone they might use as leverage. Min-jae, my family doesn't just uproot their lives because they do if they want to survive. His voice was harder than he intended. I know these people. I know what they're capable of when they feel betrayed. Please, trust me on this. He heard her breathing on the other end of the line. Okay, she said quietly. I'll talk to them. Figure something out. Thank you. Min-jae? Her voice got softer. You chose the hard way. The right way. I know how much that cost you. It hasn't cost anything yet. Ask me again in a week. He hung up before she could respond. The next morning, Webb called. The U.S. attorney is interested. Very interested. We're putting together a task force, FBI, IRS, ATF. This is big enough to justify immediate action. Min-jae felt something loosen in his chest. How soon? 72 hours, maybe 48 if we can verify some of your information faster. But Kang, you need to disappear. Right now. The moment your family suspects what's happening, they'll come for you. I can't disappear. I have a business to run. You have a target on your back. The business won't matter if you're dead. I'll take precautions. That's not... Webb stopped. You're not listening. These people will kill you. They'll make it painful. They'll make it public. You need protective custody. No. Min-jae's voice was flat. I spent 15 years being what they made me. I won't spend the rest of my life hiding from them. I'll be careful. But I'm not running. Webb cursed. You're either brave or stupid. I can't tell which. Neither can I. Min-jae went back to the office, tried to work like everything was normal, tried to focus on salvaging partnerships and managing the skeleton crew of employees who hadn't quit yet, but everything felt wrong. The air too thin, every sound too loud, his skin crawling with the sensation of being watched. Amara showed up around noon. She looked like she hadn't slept. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail. My mother's being moved to my aunt's place in Wisconsin, she said. My sisters are taking their families to stay with friends out of state. Everyone thinks I'm paranoid. Better paranoid than dead. She sat down across from his desk. Webb called me too. Said you refused protective custody. I did. That's stupid. Probably. Min-jae. Her voice cracked slightly. I can't lose you, not after everything. He came around the desk, knelt in front of her chair so they were eye level. You won't lose me, I promise. You can't promise that. I just did. He took her hands. They were shaking. Webb moves in 48 hours, 2 days. We stay smart for 2 days, and this is over. Amara looked at him with eyes that had seen too much, hoped too hard, feared too deeply. 2 days, she repeated. Then we're done looking over our shoulders? Then we're done. She kissed him, desperate and fierce and tasting like fear. They spent that night at Min-jae's apartment. Neither of them wanted to be alone. They sat on his couch with the lights off, watching the city glow through floor-to-ceiling windows, not talking much, just existing in each other's presence. Around midnight, Amara spoke. What happens after? After your family is arrested and the business is ours completely, and we don't have to hide anymore? Min-jae looked at her. What do you want to happen? I want us to build something huge, something that changes millions of lives. I want to prove everyone wrong who said we'd fail. She turned to face him. And I want to stop pretending we're just business partners. I want people to know we're together. The world will judge you for that. Let them judge. I'm done caring what people think. Her eyes were fierce. Are you? Min-jae pulled her closer. Yes, I'm done. They fell asleep on the couch, wrapped around each other, stealing a few hours of peace before the storm arrived. The call came at 4 a.m. Min-jae's phone buzzed. Unknown number again. He knew before answering. Min-jae. Not Sung-ho this time. His cousin. The family head. We need to have a conversation. I have nothing to say to you. That's unfortunate, because I have federal agents asking questions about our operations. Very specific questions. Questions only someone with intimate family knowledge could answer. His cousin's voice was ice over rage. You talked! Min-jae sat up. Amara stirred beside him, waking. I did. You betrayed your blood, your family, everything we built. You mean everything you built on suffering and blood money? Yes, I betrayed that. Silence. Then his cousin laughed, low and cold. You stupid, sentimental fool. You think the Americans will protect you? You think their laws mean anything to us? The laugh stopped. I gave you chances, Min-jae. Multiple chances to remember who you are. You chose the woman instead. So now, I'm going to take everything from you the same way you're trying to take everything from us. The FBI will have you in custody in 24 hours. Maybe. But we have you right now. His cousin's voice went deadly quiet. How much do you love her, Min-jae? Enough to watch her suffer. Min-jae's blood went cold. If you touch her, I'm not touching anyone. I don't need to. I made some calls tonight. Very interesting calls. Did you know your Amara has a sealed juvenile record? Something about her brother's death not being as simple as gang violence? Something about her being there when it happened? That's none of your business. It became my business when you made it my business. I also called several journalists, told them this touching story about a secretary who seduced a mafia boss, convinced him to betray his family, all so she could steal his business and his money. Told them she's been manipulating you from the beginning. Nobody will believe that, won't they? A black woman working for a Korean criminal? Everyone will believe it. Some already do. His cousin paused. I'm destroying her reputation, Min-jae. By tomorrow, every news outlet in Chicago will be running stories questioning whether she's a victim or an opportunist, whether she manipulated you, whether any of this redemption story was ever real. You're lying. Am I? Check the news. Min-jae grabbed his laptop, pulled up local news sites. The stories were already there. Questions surround clean energy companies' origins. Secretary's role in Mafia boss's transformation under scrutiny. Did Amara Brooks manipulate her way to success? Each article carefully worded. Nothing directly accusatory, just questions, implications, enough to plant doubt. You bastard, Min-jae breathed. I'm pragmatic, there's a difference. His cousin's voice was calm, almost pleasant. Here's what happens now. You call your federal friends. Tell them you made everything up. Tell them you were angry at the family and lied. Recant everything. Never. Then I keep destroying her. Every day, every story, every insinuation. By the time I'm done, nobody will remember her as the brilliant woman who rebuilt your empire. They'll remember her as the manipulative secretary who slept with a criminal for power. His cousin let that sink in. Your choice, Min-jae. Save your family from prison or save her reputation. You can't have both. The line went dead. Amara was staring at him. What did he say? Min-jae showed her the news articles. He watched her face as she read. Watched the color drain. Watched her hands start to shake. They're destroying me, she whispered. Everything I worked for, everything I am, they're turning it into a lie. We'll fight back. Issue statements. Prove them wrong. How? She looked at him with devastated eyes. How do I prove I'm not manipulating you? How do I prove my feelings are real? The more I defend myself, the guiltier I look. Minjae pulled her against him, felt her shaking. I'm calling Webb, he said, accelerating everything. They moved today, not in 48 hours. He called. Got Webb's voicemail. Left a message. Tried the direct line to the U.S. Attorney's office. Got a secretary who said everyone was in meetings. His phone buzzed. A text from Sung Ho. Looking for your federal friends? They're busy. We have friends too. Friends who make calls. Friends who slow things down. Another text. Your woman is all over the news, looks bad for her. Shame. All this could have been avoided. Minjae wanted to put his fist through the wall. Instead, he called Webb again, left another message, then another. Nothing. They're blocking it, he said. Somehow they're blocking the investigation. How is that possible? Money, influence, threats. It doesn't matter how. Minjae stood up, started pacing. We're alone. Webb can't move fast enough, and my family is dismantling us piece by piece. Amara was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up. So we go public ourselves. What? We go public. Call a press conference. Tell our story directly. No filters, no intermediaries. Just us explaining what actually happened. Her voice gained strength. They want to control the narrative? We take it back. That's insane. The press will destroy us. They're already destroying us. At least this way we fight back. She grabbed her phone. I'm calling every journalist who will listen, setting up a press conference for this afternoon. Amara, no. She turned to face him. I'm not hiding. I'm not letting them turn me into a villain without defending myself. And I'm not letting you face this alone. Her eyes were fierce. We built this together. We fight for it together, no matter what happens. Minjae stared at her, at this incredible, fearless woman who refused to surrender even when surrender was rational. All right, he said, we fight together. They spent the morning preparing. Amara drafted a statement. Minjae gathered documents proving the timeline of their relationship, their business decisions, everything that contradicted the manipulation narrative. By 2 p.m, they'd arranged a press conference at a hotel conference room downtown. 20 journalists confirmed attendance. More were coming. They arrived at the hotel together, walked through a side entrance to avoid the cameras already gathering. In the preparation room, Amara looked at herself in the mirror, fixed her blazer, straightened her collar. Her hands were steady now, resolved. You ready? Minjae asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. She turned to him. Whatever happens in there, whatever they ask, whatever they accuse us of, we tell the truth. All of it. Deal? Deal. They walked into the conference room together. Flash bulbs exploded. Reporters shouted questions simultaneously. Cameras tracked their every move. Minjae and Amara sat behind a table at the front, microphones clustered between them. Amara spoke first. Her voice was clear, strong, cutting through the noise. Thank you for coming. My name is Amara Brooks. You've probably heard several versions of my story in the last 24 hours. I'm here to tell you the real one. The room quieted. 6 months ago, I made a choice that looked insane to everyone around me. I chose to stay working for a man whose criminal empire had just collapsed. Not because I was naive, not because I was manipulated, but because I saw potential for something better. She detailed their journey, the school project, the partnerships, the family threats, the attempted sabotage. Minjae sat beside her, watching her command the room with nothing but truth and conviction. The stories you're hearing about me, that I manipulated Mr. Kang for money and power, are false. They're being planted by the same criminal organization that's currently under federal investigation for money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy. Amar's voice didn't waver. They're trying to destroy my reputation because we refuse to let them use our legitimate business for illegal purposes. A reporter shouted from the back. Are you in a romantic relationship with Mr. Kang? Silence fell. This was the moment. The question that could destroy everything. Amara looked at Minjae, then back at the cameras. Yes, I am. Chaos erupted. Reporters shouting, cameras flashing. Someone yelled something about professional ethics. Amara raised her voice. Mr. Kang and I are in a relationship that began after we rebuilt this company, after we proved our business model worked, after we secured legitimate partnerships. It didn't happen in reverse. I didn't seduce my way to success. I earned my equity through work, strategy, and believing in something when no one else did. Another reporter stood up. Ms. Brooks, how do you expect people to believe you're not simply benefiting from a relationship with a wealthy criminal? Because I built this company from nothing alongside him. Every partnership we have, I secured. Every investment presentation, I wrote. Every technology decision, I made. Her voice was steel. I don't need to seduce anyone for success. I'm capable of earning it myself. Min Jae watched her face the cameras, unflinching, refusing to apologize for their relationship or her success. He'd never loved her more. I'd like to add something, Min Jae said. The room shifted focus to him. I was a criminal. That's not disputed. I hurt people. I profited from suffering. I built power through fear. His voice was steady. Amara didn't manipulate me into changing. She showed me there was another option. She believed in something I didn't even know I was capable of being. And yes, I fell in love with her. Because she's brilliant, fearless, and refuses to surrender even when the entire world tells her she should. He looked directly at the cameras. My former family is trying to destroy us because we refuse to let them corrupt what we built. They're using your media platforms to spread lies and character assassination because their usual methods, threats, violence, intimidation, didn't work. Min Jae's voice hardened. I cooperated with federal investigators. I gave them everything they needed to dismantle a criminal organization. And now that organization is retaliating the only way they have left, by trying to destroy our reputations. A journalist near this front raised her hand. Mr. Kang, are you asking us to believe in a redemption story? That someone with your background has genuinely changed? No. I'm asking you to judge us on our work, our actual results, the communities we've helped, the technology we've built, the partnerships we've earned. He paused. I can't prove I've changed. Only time proves that. But I can prove what we've built is real. The press conference lasted 90 minutes. They answered every question, showed every document, refused to hide behind lawyers or prepared statements. When it ended, they had no idea if they'd won or lost. They walked out of the hotel into an ambush. Sung Ho stood by their car with 4 men, not hiding, not subtle, just standing there like he owned the street. That was beautiful, Sung Ho said. Very moving. The criminal and his woman declaring their love against the world. He smiled. Didn't change anything, though. Min Jae stepped in front of Amara. Get out of the way. Or what? You'll call the police. Sung Ho gestured around. Look around, cousin. We're in public. Cameras everywhere. Witnesses. I'm not doing anything illegal. Just talking to family. We're not family. We'll always be family. Blood doesn't wash away. Sung Ho's smile disappeared. You humiliated us in there. Told the world you cooperated with federal investigators. Made us look weak. You are weak. You just hide it better. Sung Ho's face darkened. Last chance, Min Jae. Recant everything you told the feds. Publicly state you lied. Give us the business. Walk away. No. Then you're dead, both of you. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But soon. And it won't be quick. Sung Ho looked at Amara. Especially her. We'll make sure she suffers for turning you against us. Something in Min Jae snapped. He moved before thinking, grabbed Sung Ho by the throat, and slammed him against the car. The 4 enforcers moved forward but stopped when Amara shouted, There are cameras everywhere. You move. Everyone sees it. Min Jae's hand tightened on Sung Ho's throat, felt the pulse hammering under his palm, saw fear flash in his cousin's eyes. You want the old me? Min Jae's voice was barely human. You want the Black Viper? Here I am, right here. Touch her, threaten her, even think about her, and I will burn your entire organization to ash. I will make you beg for the mercy of federal prison. He released Sung Ho, who gasped for air. That's assault, Sung Ho choked out. Witnesses everywhere. Good. Let them see. Let everyone see that I'll protect what's mine. Min Jae grabbed Amara's hand. We're leaving. Stop us if you're brave enough. They walked to their car. Nobody moved to stop them. Min Jae's hands shook as he drove away, adrenaline and rage and fear mixing in his bloodstream. You shouldn't have done that, Amara said quietly. You gave them ammunition. I don't care. He threatened you. I know, but now they have video of you assaulting someone. That plays into their narrative. Let it. I'm done playing nice. Min Jae's voice was harsh. They want war? I'll give them war. His phone rang. Webb. What the hell were you thinking? Webb's voice was furious. I just watched video of you choking someone in public. Do you understand what you've done? You've given defense attorneys ammunition to argue you're still violent, still dangerous, still criminal. He threatened Amara. I don't care if he threatened the Pope. You can't assault people and expect me to protect you. Webb took a breath. The U.S. attorney is having second thoughts about using you as a cooperating witness. You're becoming a liability. Min-jae felt ice flood his chest. When do you move? I don't know anymore. Maybe never. You just contaminated our entire investigation. No, you can't stop now. You have everything you need. What I need is a credible witness, not someone who assaults people in broad daylight. Webb's voice softened slightly. I'm sorry, Kang, but you might have just destroyed the only legal path to stopping your family. He hung up. Min-jae pulled the car over, sat there gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. What did he say? Amara asked. I destroyed everything, the investigation, our credibility, everything. He looked at her. I'm sorry. I tried to do it your way. I tried to be better, but I'm not. I'm exactly what they always said I was. No, Amar's voice was fierce. You're a man who protected someone he loves. That's not criminal, that's human. Human doesn't win against them, monster does. Then we find another way. We always find another way. She grabbed his face, made him look at her. We don't give up. Ever. Understand? Min-jae wanted to believe her, wanted to think there was still a path to victory, but sitting in that car with sirens somewhere in the distance and his family circling like wolves, he couldn't see it anymore. All he could see was the war he'd started, and the woman he loved standing in the crossfire. His phone buzzed one more time, a text from his cousin. Just 3 words. Time is up. Min-jae sat in that car staring at his phone, at those 3 words from his cousin. Time is up, and felt the last threads of hope unravel. We need to move, Amara said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. We can't stay here exposed like this. Where do we go? They know everywhere we'd run. Then we don't run. We go to the office, lock the doors, call Webb again, make him understand. Ikaras uskikiyim. Webb is done with us. I destroyed that bridge when I put my hands on Sung-ho. Min-jae started the car. But you're right. We can't stay here. They drove through Chicago traffic in silence. Min-jae kept checking mirrors, looking for tales, for threats, for any sign that his family was moving. But the streets looked normal. Ordinary people living ordinary lives, unaware that 2 people in a sedan were watching their entire world collapse in real time. When they reached the office building, Min-jae parked in the underground garage, checked every shadow, every corner, saw nothing. Stay close to me, he said. They took the elevator to their floor. The office was empty. Most of their remaining employees had stopped coming in after the news stories broke. The ones who stayed were working remotely, distancing themselves from the disaster. Min-jae locked the main entrance behind them, checked every room. Nothing. In his office, he pulled up security camera feeds. The building appeared secure. No suspicious activity. No strange vehicles in the parking areas. They're not coming, Amar said, watching over his shoulder. Not yet. They're waiting. For what? Min-jae didn't answer because he didn't know. His family operated on patience when patience served them. They'd wait until the moment of maximum impact, maximum pain. His phone rang. Not his cousin, not Sung-ho, a number he didn't recognize with a Chicago area code. He answered cautiously. Yes? Mr. Kang, this is Special Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI. A woman's voice, professional, clipped. I need you to listen carefully. We have credible intelligence that there's going to be an attempt on your life tonight. Min-jae's blood went cold. How credible? Very. We intercepted communications from your family's organization. They're sending people to eliminate you and Ms. Brooks. We can offer you protective custody. No. Mr. Kang, this isn't a negotiation. If you don't accept our protection, you will die tonight. Then I die on my own terms. Min-jae looked at Amara, who was watching him with wide eyes. But get Amara somewhere safe, please. I'm not leaving you, Amar said immediately. Ms. Brooks needs to accept custody too, Agent Chen said. We can't force you, but I'm strongly recommending— We're staying, Amara interrupted, taking the phone from Min-jae. Together. But if you're serious about helping us, send units to this location. We're not running, but we're not facing them alone either. A pause. Give me your address. I'll have units there in 20 minutes. But Ms. Brooks? If you wait for us to arrive and they get there first, you're both dead. 20 minutes then. Amara hung up. She looked at Minjae. So we have 20 minutes? To do what? To decide how this ends. She sat down across from him. Your family wants you dead. The FBI can't move fast enough. Webb's investigation is stalled. Our reputation is destroyed. Our business is hanging by a thread. Her voice was eerily calm. We can run. Let the FBI hide us away somewhere. Live the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. Or we fight back. One last time. Not with violence, with truth. Minjae stared at her. I don't understand. Your family's power comes from secrecy, from operating in shadows, from people being too afraid to expose them. Amara leaned forward. What if we take away the shadows? What if we release everything you know publicly? Every name, every operation, every corrupt official, not to the FBI, to everyone, the press, social media, every platform we can reach. That's suicide. The moment we do that, they'll kill us. Maybe, but they're going to kill us anyway. At least this way, we take them down with us. Her eyes were fierce. And maybe, just maybe, if everything's public, if the whole world is watching, they can't touch us without exposing themselves completely. Minjae felt something shift in his chest. It was insane, reckless, exactly the kind of move that would either save them or destroy them. You're serious? Completely. Amara pulled out her laptop. I still have contacts at news organizations from our press conference. I can have this information in 20 different inboxes in 5 minutes. Once it's out there, it can't be taken back. They'll retaliate. They're already retaliating. This way we retaliate back. She met his eyes. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of letting them control our lives. Let's show them what happens when they push too far. Minjae looked at this woman who'd stayed when everyone left, who'd believed when belief was insane, who was now proposing they commit digital warfare against one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in Chicago. Do it, he said. Amara's fingers flew across the keyboard. She pulled up the documents Minjae had compiled for Webb, added her own research, created a massive file containing every piece of evidence they had about the family's operations. I'm sending this to 17 journalists simultaneously, she said, plus uploading to secure document sharing sites, plus posting links on social media. By the time your family realizes what we've done, it'll be everywhere. They'll know it came from us. Good. Let them know. She looked at him. Any second thoughts? Minjae thought about his father, about the empire built on fear, about 15 years of being someone he hated, about the moment Amara sat at her desk while the world burned and chose to stay anyway. No second thoughts. Send it. Amara hit enter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her phone started buzzing. Then Minjae's. Then the office phone, journalists calling, news organizations. People who'd received the files and immediately understood what they meant. It's out there, Amara said quietly. No taking it back now. Minjae's phone rang. His cousin. He answered. The rage on the other end was volcanic. What have you done? His cousin's voice shook with fury. Do you understand what you've just destroyed? Yes, your organization, your power, your ability to hurt anyone ever again. You've killed yourself. You've killed her. There's nowhere you can hide now. I'm not hiding. I'm sitting in my office waiting for you to make your next move. Come find me if you're brave enough. Minjae's voice was ice. But understand this, the whole world is watching now. Every journalist in Chicago has your name, your operations, your crimes. You touch us. You prove everything we just exposed. You let us live. You look weak. Either way, you lose. His cousin was breathing hard on the other end. You think publicity protects you? You think the world caring stops bullets? No, but it makes martyrs, and martyrs are harder to bury than victims. Minjae looked at Amara. We're not victims anymore. We're witnesses, and we've already testified. The line went dead. Amara grabbed his hand. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing you've ever done. Probably both. The office phone rang. Amara answered on speaker. This is Agent Chen. We're 5 minutes out. But I need you to know, we just intercepted new communications. They're accelerating their timeline. They're coming now, not tonight, now. How many? Min-jae asked. At least 6, maybe more. They're converging on your location from multiple directions. Chen's voice was urgent. Lock yourselves in an interior room. Stay away from windows. We're coming as fast as we can. She hung up. Min-jae looked at Amara. We need to move. Now. They ran to the interior conference room. No windows. Reinforced door. Min-jae locked it from the inside and pushed a heavy table against it. Amara was on her phone. I'm live streaming this. What? If they're coming for us, the world needs to see it. She set up her phone on a shelf, camera facing them. If we die, at least everyone knows why. Min-jae wanted to argue but realized she was right. Witnesses. Testimony. The truth broadcast live where it couldn't be erased. They heard the elevator ding down the hall. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Heavy. Purposeful. Min-jae positioned himself between Amara and the door. He had no weapons. Nothing but his body and the desperate hope that the FBI would arrive in time. Someone tried the main office door, found it locked. The sound of glass breaking. They were coming in anyway. Min-jae, Amar's voice was surprisingly calm. If this goes bad, it won't. But if it does, I need you to know something. She looked at him with eyes that held no fear, only clarity. Staying with you was the best decision I ever made. Building this with you. Loving you. All of it. Even if it ends here, it was worth it. Min-jae pulled her close, kissed her hard. It's not ending here. The conference room door handle rattled, someone testing it, then Sung-ho's voice from the other side. Min-jae, open the door. Let's talk like family. We're not family. We'll always be family. Blood doesn't wash away. You know that. A pause. The woman can leave. This is between us. Let her go and we'll settle this like men. Amar grabbed Min-jae's arm. Don't you dare. I'm not leaving you, Min-jae called back. Then you're both dead. Sung-ho's voice went flat. Break it down. The door shuddered. Someone hitting it with force. The reinforced frame held but wouldn't last forever. Amara was still streaming, speaking to the camera. If you're watching this, know that we're being attacked by members of the Korean criminal organization we exposed an hour ago. We've done nothing wrong except tell the truth. Whatever happens next, remember that. Another hit on the door. The frame cracked slightly. Min-jae looked around desperately for anything he could use. Found a fire extinguisher in the corner. Not much, but better than nothing. FBI is 2 minutes out, he told Amara. We just need to hold 2 minutes. 2 minutes? She nodded. We can do 2 minutes. The door shuddered again. The crack widened. Then gunfire outside in the hallway. Not at their door. Different direction. Shouting in Korean. Then English. Federal agents, drop your weapons. More gunfire. Shouting. Chaos in the hallway. Min-jae and Amara pressed themselves against the back wall, hearts hammering, listening to the battle rage outside. It lasted less than a minute. Then silence. Min-jae Kang, Amara Brooks. Agent Chen's voice. This is the FBI. It's secure. Open the door. Min-jae moved the table, unlocked the door carefully. The hallway was controlled chaos. FBI agents everywhere. 3 men on the ground in handcuffs. Min-jae recognized 2 of them as his family's enforcers. No sign of Sung-ho. Agent Chen stood in the middle of it all, weapons still drawn, looking at Min-jae and Amara with something like respect. You two are either incredibly lucky or incredibly stupid, she said. Probably both. Did you get Sung-ho? Min-jae asked. He ran, but we got his people. And thanks to your document dump, we have enough evidence to arrest half your family's organization. Chen holstered her weapon. You just handed us the biggest organized crime case in Chicago in 20 years. What happens now? Amara asked. Now you give formal statements. Now you testify. Now you help us put these people away for the rest of their lives. Chen looked between them. You're both going to need protection. Witness security, new identities if necessary. No. Min-jae's voice was firm. We're not hiding. We're not running. We did nothing wrong. We're staying exactly where we are. That's dangerous. Being alive is dangerous. Amar moved beside Min-jae. We're done letting them make us afraid. Chen studied them, then nodded slowly. All right, but we'll have agents watching you until the trials are over. Deal? Deal. The next 3 weeks were chaos. Min-jae and Amara gave depositions that lasted days. The document dump triggered investigations not just in Chicago, but across the country. The Korean consulate got involved. International agencies. It spiraled into something bigger than anyone anticipated. Sung-ho was arrested trying to flee to Vancouver. Min-jae's cousin was taken into custody in Seoul, fighting extradition. Dozens of associates, corrupt officials, and affiliated criminals were charged. The news covered it obsessively. The redemption story that turned into a crime saga that turned into a David versus Goliath triumph. Public opinion shifted. People who'd questioned whether Min-jae and Amara were legitimate started believing their story. But the business was still damaged. Partners remained cautious. Investors waited to see how the legal cases resolved. Robert Chen called on a Tuesday morning. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I abandoned you when you needed support. I believed the propaganda instead of trusting what I'd seen." "You were protecting your foundation," Min-jae said. "I understand. Understanding doesn't make it right." Chen paused. "I'd like to reinstate our partnership. Full funding. And I'd like to triple our initial investment. You two have proven you're exactly who you claim to be. People who keep fighting even when fighting seems impossible." Min-jae looked at Amara across the office. She was listening on speaker, tears gathering in her eyes. "We accept," Amara said. Other partners followed. Foundations that had pulled funding returned. New investors appeared, drawn by the story and the technology both. Within 6 weeks, the company wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. They hired back employees, signed new manufacturing contracts, secured deals for installations in Kenya, Bangladesh, and the Philippines. The solar panels and water filtration systems they dreamed about were finally reaching the communities that needed them. Mrs. Patterson from the community center called to congratulate them. "I told you that first day you did good, Mr. Kang, but I had no idea how good." "We haven't done anything yet," Min-jae said. "We're just getting started." "That's what I like to hear." Amara's mother recovered fully from her injuries. Her sisters returned to Chicago. The family that had scattered in fear slowly came back together. Min-jae met them at a dinner Amara organized. It was awkward at first. Her family knew who he'd been, what he'd done, the danger he'd brought into their lives. But Amara's mother looked at him across the dinner table and said something that changed everything. "You could have run, could have saved yourself, but you stayed and fought for my daughter. That tells me who you really are, not what you were. Who you are." Min-jae felt something break open in his chest, acceptance he hadn't known he needed. "Thank you," he said quietly. The trials took 8 months. Min-jae and Amara testified at 4 different proceedings, faced cross-examination from defense attorneys who tried to paint them as vindictive, manipulative, criminal themselves. But the evidence was overwhelming. The documents they'd released, the testimonies from other witnesses who came forward once the organization started crumbling, the pattern of corruption and violence that couldn't be denied. Min-jae's cousin got 30 years. Sung-ho got 25. Dozens of others received sentences ranging from probation to life. The empire his father built was dismantled completely. On the day of the final sentencing, Min-jae stood outside the courthouse with Amara beside him. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. "How does it feel to destroy your own family?" one journalist called out. Min-jae thought about that question. Really thought about it. "They weren't my family," he said finally. "Family doesn't threaten the people you love. Family doesn't build empires on suffering. What I destroyed was a criminal organization that happened to share my blood. That's different." "What's next for you and Miss Brooks?" Min-jae looked at Amara. She nodded. "We're getting married," he said, "and we're continuing to build a company that actually helps people. That's what's next." The questions continued, but Min-jae and Amara walked away, hand in hand, leaving the courthouse and the cameras and the chaos behind them. 3 months later, they stood on a rooftop in downtown Chicago. The same rooftop where they'd worked late countless nights, where they'd made plans, where they'd first kissed after confessing feelings they'd both tried to hide. Now it was decorated with lights and flowers. 75 people gathered. Employees, partners, friends, Amara's family. Mrs. Patterson sat in the front row smiling. Robert Chen was there with his wife. Even Marcus Webb attended, looking uncomfortable in a suit. Min-jae wore a simple black tux. Amara wore a dress that somehow managed to be elegant and powerful simultaneously. She looked stunning. They wrote their own vows. Amara spoke first. I stayed when everyone left, not because I thought I could save you, but because I thought you could save yourself. I was right. You became someone I didn't know existed inside the criminal I worked for. You became someone worth believing in, worth fighting for, worth loving. She paused, blinking back tears. Thank you for being brave enough to change. Thank you for fighting for us when fighting seemed impossible. Thank you for showing me what real partnership looks like. Min Jae's turn. I spent 15 years building power through fear. Then I lost everything in a single night and discovered I'd built nothing at all. You showed me what real power looks like. It looks like staying when everyone runs. It looks like believing when belief is insane. It looks like refusing to surrender even when the world tells you you're beaten. His voice cracked slightly. You didn't save me, Amara. You gave me a reason to save myself, and then you stood beside me while I figured out how. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that. They exchanged rings, kissed as husband and wife while their friends applauded. At the reception, Min Jae found himself alone for a moment, looking out at the Chicago skyline, the city that had witnessed his rise and fall and rise again. Amara joined him. She'd taken off her heels and looked more relaxed than he'd seen her in months. What are you thinking about? She asked. Everything. Nothing. He pulled her close. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for the other shoe to drop. It's been too good lately. Maybe we're due for some good, after everything. Maybe. He kissed the top of her head. Or maybe this is what happens when you stop building empires on blood and start building them on something real. Partnership. Love. Same thing. She looked up at him. You know what I realized today? What? We won. Not just survived. Not just got through it. We actually won. We destroyed a criminal organization, built a legitimate business, changed thousands of lives. And we're standing here married and happy and alive. She smiled. That's not luck. That's us refusing to quit. Minji thought about the night his empire collapsed, about finding Amara at her desk, about every impossible moment that followed, every choice, every sacrifice, every time they could have surrendered and chose to fight instead. We should go back to the party, Amara said. People will notice we're gone. Let them notice. Min Jae held her tighter. I want one more minute of this, just us, before we go back to building things and changing the world and all the chaos that comes with it. One more minute, she agreed. They stood together on that rooftop overlooking Chicago as the sun set over the lake, painting the sky in colors that looked impossible. Two people who'd walked through fire and come out the other side transformed into something neither could have imagined at the beginning. Below them, the city hummed with millions of lives being lived, people struggling and succeeding and failing and trying again. The same cycle playing out everywhere, endlessly. But up here, for one perfect moment, Min Jae and Amara stood outside that cycle. Just breathing, just existing, just being grateful for every impossible thing that had led them to this moment. All right, Amara said finally. Now we can go back. To the party? To everything. They walked back to their wedding reception hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next together. 1 year later, their company was valued at $800 million and operating in 47 countries. They'd provided clean water to 1.2 million people and reliable electricity to communities that had never had it before. Amara was named one of the most influential black women in international development. She gave speeches at conferences, appeared on magazine covers, became a voice for sustainable business practices and social entrepreneurship. Min Jae stayed mostly out of the spotlight. He preferred working behind the scenes, managing operations, making sure the technology reached the people who needed it most. But sometimes reporters still asked about his past, about being a criminal who became a humanitarian, about whether redemption was real. He always gave the same answer. I don't know if I'm redeemed. That's not for me to decide. What I know is that I spent 15 years destroying things, and I'd like to spend the rest of my life building them. Whether that erases the past doesn't matter. It's still worth doing. On the anniversary of their first installation at that Southside school, Min Jae and Amara returned to visit. The kids who'd been there for the original installation were older now, teenagers. They gathered around Amara asking questions about engineering and business and how to build companies that mattered. Mrs. Patterson pulled Min Jae aside. You know what I'm most proud of? She said. What? That you proved me right about you. That day I took a chance on letting you install those panels. Everyone told me I was crazy, told me you were using us. But I saw something in you, something worth betting on." She smiled. "And I won that bet." Minjay felt his throat tighten. "Thank you, for believing when you had no reason to." "I had a reason. I saw a man who was tired of being what everyone expected. That's always worth believing in." That night, lying in bed beside Amara in the home they'd bought together overlooking the lake, Minjay thought about the journey. From criminal empire to collapse to rebuilding something real. From isolation to partnership to love. From being feared to being trusted. From destroying communities to helping them thrive. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been clean. There were scars that would never heal, and choices he'd never stop questioning. But lying there with Amara's breathing soft against his chest, knowing they'd built something that mattered, knowing they'd fought for each other when fighting seemed impossible, knowing they'd proven that people really could change if they wanted it badly enough. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. "You're thinking too loud," Amara murmured sleepily. "I can hear your brain working." "Sorry. What are you thinking about?" "Us. Everything we built. Everything we survived." "Good thoughts or bad thoughts?" "Grateful thoughts." He kissed her forehead. "Go back to sleep." "Minjay?" "Yeah?" "I love you. Just wanted to say it." "I love you too." She fell back asleep within moments. Minjay lay awake a while longer, watching the city lights reflect on the ceiling, thinking about second chances and the kind of love that refuses to surrender. Somewhere across Chicago, in communities they'd helped, lights were burning that wouldn't have existed without them. Children were doing homework under reliable power. Families were drinking clean water. Lives were changing in small but meaningful ways. That was the empire they'd built. Not one of fear and violence and money made from suffering, but one of light and clean water and the simple radical act of helping people who needed help. And as Minjay finally drifted to sleep beside the woman who'd stayed when everyone else ran, he understood something fundamental about redemption. It wasn't something you earned through suffering or grand gestures or dramatic sacrifice. It was something you built slowly, day by day, choice by choice, by simply refusing to be what you were and insisting on becoming something better. Even when better seemed impossible. Especially then. The story of Kong Min Jae and Amara Brooks didn't end with a neat bow or a perfect resolution. Life doesn't work that way. They continued facing challenges, continued making mistakes, continued figuring out how to be partners and spouses and leaders of a growing company. But they faced it together. And that made all the difference. Because in the end, the greatest empire anyone can build isn't made of money or power or fear. It's made of loyalty, purpose, sacrifice, and love. And once you build that, nothing can tear it down. Not rivals, not family, not the whole world telling you it's impossible. You just keep building, keep fighting, keep believing. And eventually, impossibly, you win. Not because winning was easy, but because quitting was never an option.